First of all, I want to thank TIA, the team at TIA, for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the today and tomorrow of NTT's network virtualization and cloud strategy. Unfortunately, I'm on the clock here, so I don't have a lot of time for small talk. So I'm just going to jump right in. My name's Joe Corvaya, Vice President of Sales Engineering. I'm responsible for the technical sales architects in the Americas, overlaying our global account teams as well as our indirect distribution channels. When I came to NTT a little over a year ago, I would have expected NTT was a company that needed no introduction just due to its sheer size. But I found out that in some audiences we're less known than I would have expected here in the US. So just very quickly, we are quite large, 112 billion as a group. The group is comprised of, as you can see up there, NTT Communications, which is the company that I represent, which is the global cloud data center and infrastructure arm. NTT Data, which is the application management, ITO, and BPO arm. Dimension Data, which is global systems integration arm, and NTT Docomo, which is primarily the Asia Pacific mobile arm of NTT. Through one facet or another, do business with 80% of the Fortune 100. And really a staple of what we're going to talk about today is $3.5 billion annually invested in R&D. And a good chunk of that goes to the Ntt Innovation Institute on an annual basis. Ntt Innovation Institute, more commonly known as I-Cubed, is really a group that is 100% focused on open innovation and applied research and development. This group really kind of builds on the intellectual capital base of the overall NTT Group companies and is funded by the overall NTT Group companies. And this is really the group that's kind of pushing the boundaries of next generation of what's going on with our technology deployment, certainly in the current generation, but also in the next generation, many things I'll talk about today. So, where we are today, so just as a quick backdrop, back in 2012, NTT Communications was one of the first, if not the first, with a commercial offering and implementation of SDN, particularly as a overlay architecture for our enterprise cloud. I'll talk a little bit more about the enterprise cloud in a couple of slides here, but this was, as Andre had talked about earlier, very much was a southbound type approach. More of a network-centric approach that overlaid our virtual private cloud offering. And this was a joint collaboration with NEC on OpenFlow controller with some modifications to the code base that allowed us to bring what we considered to be a value-added service to the market, incorporating SDN that wasn't just kind of a network efficiency play that many of the folks were doing at the time. So it was a proprietary implementation, but also somewhat revolutionary at the time. So since then, a lot of that intellectual property has been pulled back into I-Cubed and for further enhancements and kind of development in the next generation of what we're bringing to market. But then in fall of 2013, we stepped up our game a bit with the acquisition of Rotella Networks. I'll talk a little bit more about Rotella Networks, but that really kind of stepped up the game in the network functions virtualization space and what we're able to do. And as of 2014, the fall of 2014, the Rotella assets have been completely integrated. So just from an impact standpoint, why are we doing all this? Why are we spending all this time? And again, I think Andre did a great job of really setting that up. But I think that Gartner says that by 2017, which at this point is kind of right around the corner, but 10% of traditional customer edge appliances or the things that we know is kind of the stuff that fills the closet at the customer edge are going to be now virtualized network services. And that's up from 1% of where it is today, or kind of over the past 6 months when the statistic was originally put in place. Our own internal research tells us that 80% of the market is going this way. So certainly from a competitive aspect, it's something that we need to continue to stay ahead of. And our own TIA, what statistics slide would be complete without our own TIA, showing that the compound annual growth rates are going to continue to accelerate for cloud. So there's obviously a lot that's there for us, and you can see as that goes out through 2018. So this is today. These are the things that are in place today. The global network, the global MPLS, VPLS network has been completely integrated with the Rotella Networks, as I mentioned earlier. So what that gives us is over 50 cloud nodes or value-added services nodes globally, where we can deliver value-added services at the edge via network functions virtualization. This includes things like firewall appliances, URL filtering, application acceleration, IPS, and a variety of other appliance-based services that are deployed on demand via point-and-click portal that invoke SDN capabilities in the network and allow us to be able to change traffic flows based on customer-configured policies that they use through the portal. So, once the traffic flows are redirected, again, this is a seamless process from the portal. So it happens within a couple of minutes. Policy is then implemented, and through a real-time provisioning model, and it's also an elastic billing model. So that's one of the things that we feel are a big differentiator today, is that for project-based type deployments, or testing environments where we want to try out accelerating an application between 2 points on the global network. These things can be spun up and spun down, and certainly the bill would change with it. Now, I think the key point here is this is a global scale. So the 50 cloud nodes that are in place today, they are at global scale and with regional diversity. So I mentioned earlier the enterprise cloud platform, and this is a globally consistent VMware vCloud powered architecture, and with some customizations and enhancements available in 14 data centers around the world today, and you can see all the locations there. That will be 17 by the end of 2015, and again, we're focused on the things that are there today. With the implementation of SDN that is part of this platform today, it does allow us to allow customers to dynamically deploy networks and virtual networks into the global layer 3 and layer 2 platform. It also allows us to leverage application gateways into other data center assets. And again, this was something that was very much revolutionary at the time. There is an automation and orchestration layer that sits over top of this that is customer configurable. And some of the things that we've recently announced in this is allowing for multi-cloud access. So it's access to third-party clouds via networking components within the enterprise cloud architecture. This is very much a hybrid architecture today. Not so much as what I'm going to talk about here, what's coming in the future, but certainly the coexistence of virtual assets along with physical assets and some bare metal components do exist today and are available in this iteration. We also have an asset light option that was recently announced that allows us to bring some of the network functions virtualization components closer to the data center from the network edge. So certainly rapid provisioning is available through the portal. And one of the other things that we're about to bring here over the next couple of months is extending a programmatic control or an API for developers to not only control the consumption of compute, but also compute, network, and storage. So allowing them to pull in the networking components there. So that's where we are today, and really there's been a good amount of adoption for that. We've had a lot of success. We're very happy with the progress, but we have been busy working towards the future. And I think a lot of what the future, what we're developing for the future, certainly what we see as the movements in the market, but it's also listening to the customer, right? And well, I'll talk a little bit about that because we pay a lot of attention to exactly what the customers are asking for and what the questions are and what the shifts are to control those development cycles. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the hype cycle. Debatable about where we are in that right now, but the one thing that we do know is that pointed deployments, pointed workload deployments of cloud is prevalent. We're seeing it in the infrastructure space. We're seeing it in the platform space. So this is out there today. Our customers are using it. I think probably maybe a main point to make from my perspective is we are primarily focused on the multinational enterprise. So the things that we're seeing are going to be very, very much focused a little bit up market. software as a service by functional area, this is something that we're seeing a lot of adoption for, whether it's in HR, legal, Salesforce automation. So we're seeing the kind of, the pointed deployments of, this workload or this application makes sense to move in this way, but we're going to keep these other things as legacy because of whatever reason they may have. And we'll talk a little bit about how that shift is starting to change a bit too, and we're starting to see some changes in the market. What we see is kind of driving the next generation of the cloud movement is kind of more of your big box architectures moving into subscription models, and more efficient hybrid architectures that allow the seamless connectivity and coexistence of virtual, physical, hyper-converged architectures, all under, again, I'm not sure that any of us really like this term, but it's the best one that we can use. It's getting it under that single pane of glass and that single control methodology. So there is a shift out there that's happening right now. And certainly, we see that IT is recognizing that they need to make that shift to look at IT as more of the business of IT and really take advantage of the things that are happening in the space. So certainly it's moving from kind of inconsistent experiences, some unachievable automation expectations, for lack of a better, failed SLAs, right? So there's a high expectation in the market for where a lot of the services are today and what it should look like. And then there's a reality, right? And then also the challenging risk management. So we're kind of moving from that and into the next generation into more of a unified user experience. Kind of continuous delivery and reinvention, and that's really kind of following the DevOps movement. More evolved automation, right? And I think the more evolved just comes from experience, us as service providers, and you as users of the technologies, and really adopting the processes and the change in IT operations to leverage these things at their greatest efficiency. So, we're seeing that better questions are being asked from our customers. So we kind of talk about what are our customers saying to us. We're seeing a big shift, and we feel that they're kind of better questions. They're more practical and pragmatic. What I mean by that is yesterday, we heard, is the cloud suitable for enterprise applications? Is it secure? What type of control can I have? What about this particular application? Will it move? Can it move? What's going to happen when it moves? And we're seeing the questions change to a little bit more about, how do I optimize? How do I improve? How do I integrate? Because we know that this cloud thing is real. We know that there are many purpose-built clouds for many different types of applications and workloads. So how do I leverage all of them to the best of my ability within the ecosystem? So voice of the customer, some of the things that we're hearing from our customers are cross-cloud orchestration, right? So we want to be able to visualize and orchestrate across many different types of clouds. And NTT, we understand that you cannot be all things to all people, but we still want you to give us the ability to visualize and orchestrate across the ecosystem. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to provide me flexible infrastructure? So give me the ability to orchestrate across and visualize. Again, it's a lot of these are very, very, very related, but how do we do virtual? How do we do physical and bare metal? How do I grab at data center assets and connect them to my global network? So all of these things are things that we're hearing from the customer. Service catalog, service key there is globally consistent, right? I want to write and package a blueprint once. I want to deploy it globally and give my IT service teams around the world the opportunity to be able to do those things in a consistent way. I want visibility and control, and I also want my service teams to have some consistency as the way that they're managing workflows and incident management and tickets, and a consistent user experience. So, this is the part where I'm going to talk about what's coming next, and I'm going to try to give you as many details and be intentionally vague at the same time, because it's the roadmap, and there's only so much I can say. But, this is coming down here in 2016, early 2016, and the next iteration is the Elastic Services Infrastructure Platform. And this is really kind of taking the next generation of SDN and NFV beyond the platform edge, tighter controls, spanning the data center, both physical, virtual, private, and hybrid. More focus on analytics and visualization, right? So it's really kind of understanding not just the performance and latencies on the networks, but the impacts to applications and network flows and driving better decisions. And then also the ability to auto-discover assets and make decisions on what makes sense to move and when. So it's really kind of focused on that core visibility of the full ecosystem. And the thing that we like to kind of talk about internally is kind of feels like an app store for networking, and that's really where we're going on the networking component. The cloud services orchestration platform, this is multiple clouds and hypervisors, kind of purpose-built clouds that are all pulled together up under one orchestration engine. It incorporates a unified partner ecosystem, visualization and analytics across all of the different NTT clouds, as well as third-party clouds. So again, it's in keeping the ecosystem in mind, and keeping in mind that we can't be all things to all people. How do we extend more visibility, more control within our pane of glass and our orchestration engines for our customers to be able to consume based on the workload profile and putting it in its right and most efficient place. This certainly extends across all of the networking components that we offer and really empowers next generation IT. So again, this is kind of the future, and what I mean by the future is as of right now, probably early 2016, there'll be a lot of details coming out on this from NTT. So what this does is it really facilitates the full plan, migrate, and development life cycle, and that's kind of when you begin with the end in mind. We said, okay, how do our customers start with cloud native or legacy and move all the way through migration to deployment, and how do we enable that and give tools, processes, workflows, and orchestration to help that happen? So it's the asking a lot of questions clearly. Are you ready, and understand what it means to them? It's the planning, what, when, and how the workload moves and what impact that has when it moves. It's the ability to provide tools to help in the architecting of customers building their own roadmap. It's the migration component, rewrite, refactor, how will it move, what will it look like when it moves. If we test this application and movement, can we roll back, and are we giving tools to help in that process and doing it in a more efficient manner. Manage and operate. And then certainly the continuous delivery and integration, and again, this is the agile process or the DevOps movement of being able to provide rapid development at DevOps speed. Okay, so what does this all mean, or what do we think this all means, and how does it impact the customer, how it operates, and how does it ultimately impact the value chain? So from a business agility standpoint, we think that it allows our customers to, in short, think smarter, innovate, bring data to action, redefine interactions, and change from within. The tools that we're going to provide is going to allow these things. And it certainly allows them to act faster, bring ideas and insights to life with rapid provisioning, connected control. Be much more flexible on the business side, and really kind of reconfigure at scale and continuously improve, and then that ultimately equals the business to agility and speed to market. So that's kind of where we're going and what we feel the high level impacts to be, and really as we kind of think about evolving the business of IT. Look, IT is a business, and you've got demanding customers, both internal and external. We recognize that, and we think that the future looks like kind of less standardization, currently a lot of standardization is needed for repeatability. But if the tools and the platforms and the efficiencies are there in the future, customization and repeatability become one, right? They become connected because you've got the tools and the insights to do it appropriately. So we see it moving towards more focus on mass customization to drive the business need. We think that the focus on control moves to kind of more empowered and engaged in environments. So it's not so much about can I control this and how do I control this. It's more assumed, right? We've got the tools, we've got the insights, we've got the analytics. Control is there. How do we move to the next generation, what we want to do as a business, and how do we manage that appropriately from an IT operations standpoint? From an efficiency standpoint, it's ultimately more throughput, right? It's wrapping up the processes and workflows and providing the tools to provide a higher output or a higher throughput for IT. We're also seeing a big shift in kind of the skill sets, right? We think there's going to be a shift in the skill sets out there in the market, where today they're very experts. I'm an expert in a certain domain, and as infrastructure becomes marginalized, generalist skill sets become much more admirable. Technology drives the ecosystem, and with that, that's how NTT sees the future. Thank you.